welcome back to the channel, guys. We are reloading for the 22 Creedmoor, and finally we can do full load development now. We can start our normal process. We have 113 rounds down range, which barrel, if it speeds up any more than what it is, then you know, oh well, we'll note that. I kept some 77 grain TMKs to reload after about 200 rounds are through the barrel to see if the barrel does speed up. That's what I'm going to do. Oh, I got about, I don't know, maybe like 30 left, 20 left, something like that. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to reload some of the TMKs later on at some of the charge weights I already shot. Like 37 grain shot really well. And I shot 37 a couple different times. So, you know, it'll be a good one to reload later on to see if the barrel sped up or slowed down or whatever. So as of now, we have 113 rounds down the pipe, so we are going to start our normal load development. Brass is 4 times fired right now. It's just fired, so nothing's done to it. It is dirty, dirty brass. Primer pockets are all cruddy. The brass don't get too dirty anyways on the 22 Creedmoor. It gets a little bit dirtier than my 6.5 Creedmoor, but it's only the neck. But my 6.5 Creedmoor, the neck don't even really frickin' get dirty. But other than that, the brass stays pretty damn clean. It's just a little bit up the neck. That's it. So we have to do the full process to the brass. And as you guys know, the first thing I usually do, especially with the 22 Creedmoor, sometimes I skip it with some cartridges. Like the 6.5 Creedmoor, I notice I don't really need to do it because I know, you know, I'm really used to that gun and know it really well. I'll still do it with the 6.5 Creedmoor as well, but as you guys know, I do pressure test first. And I will be doing that with the 22 Creedmoor from now on, either way. Like I said, sometimes I skip it with other cartridges, but this one I'm going to do it every time no matter what. Well, every time that I start a new bullet, because that way I'll know when it flies apart, or anytime I change powder as well, I'll have to do it. So either way, we'll go by, you know, what we see, but normally, so I don't have to pull a bunch of bullets. I'm definitely going to do some pressure tests. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to do 5 bullets, steadily going up in pressure charge, or in powder charge. And we're going to move to some H4350. I've been dying to use this in 22 Creedmoor. I get such good SDs and ESs out of this that I've been itching, and we haven't been faring too well with the with the super performance. So as of now, the only load data I can get for H4350 is from Peterson Cartridge. They have some load data written up pretty well. They got some load data for, let's see here, Reloader 26, H1000, and H4350. And it's pretty limited. They only have it for a 55 grain bullet, a 75 grain bullet, an 80.5 grain bullet, which is the Burger obviously, and a 95 grain bullet, which is the Sierra. That's the heaviest bullet you can actually get. Well, that I've seen. I don't think you can get anything heavier. If you can, it's kind of a niche bullet, but that's pretty much the heaviest bullet you can get for 22 caliber is 95 grain Sierra hollow point boat tail, which should be the Match King, I would imagine. So we are also switching bullets. Since I said I'm going to save, I'll probably reload a few more tip Match King under the H4350 just to try it, because I still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Yeah, around 30. Around 30 TMKs, and I only need to save enough to do a few tests once, like I said, once I get about 200 rounds down the barrel, I want to do some tests to see if the barrel's sped up at all. But I want to reload a few of these as well for the H4350, but we'll do that later on. We are switching bullets. We are using the 80 grain ELDM, which I am so excited for. I love ELDM. For the 6.5 Creedmoor, it was amazing. Shot really good. And that's what it looks like. Nice, long, red tipped, like normal, ELDM. So yeah, it's not the LDX, it's the ELDM. And I got about 100 of these, so yeah, I say we get going on a new bullet, trying something new and a new powder. So we have to do the full process. It's getting late, so I'm not going to do it all tonight, but for you guys, it's going to be quick anyways, through the magic of editing. But I'm going to take you through the whole process, since we can start load development now and start from scratch and do the whole thing right. I figured I'll take you through the whole thing. Now, after these 80s, I'm going to be moving to the burgers. Now these aren't the 80.5s, these are the 85.5s. Long range hybrid target. And also I have some juggernauts coming as well. So these look amazing. I cannot wait to get into these. Probably the prettiest bullet I've ever seen. Gorgeous boat tail on it. Shiniest bullet I've ever seen, and nice hollow point. So either way, yeah. Nice shiny burger bullets. They are shiny too. Almost hurt your eyes looking at it. So either way, yeah, we'll be going to burger after this, but I figure we'll get the 80 grains out of the way, ELDMs, and try those. Those worked good for me, like I said, in 6.5 Creedmoor. So, first thing we're doing, honestly, this time around, right now, we just need to do 5 casings. We need to prep and size and all that, 5 cases. And then after I get done these 5, they're going to be fired up to 5 times. So when we do the first loading for these 80 grain ELDMs, we're only going to be doing 5, 10, 15, 20 loads, or sorry, yeah, 20 bullets, so 4 groups and 3 fowlers, because normally with the 22 Creedmoor we've been doing 5 groups and 3 fowlers. But 5 are going to be 5 are going to be done or used with this pressure test. So those are going to be up, and I'm going to have to get the rest up to 5 times fired, along with these ones I do for the pressure test. So that's the plan. I'm going to get these all ready to go. The necks are more charred, like I said, than my bench rest gun, but I'm still not going to tumble the brass because it's not bad. I might wipe off the necks a little bit with some alcohol, but that's it. So the pressure test is going to consist of 36 grains. We're going to do 1 cartridge each per load, just to see if the bullet can handle it, and to see how get some velocities out of it, and and I'm going to shoot, when you do a pressure test, it's kind of like a ladder test as well, but I kind of do it all in one. I do 1 point of aim, point of impact, you know, for each one of these loads. So 1 bullet at 36 grains, 1 bullet at 36.2. I'm moving 2/10 on these. 1 bullet at 36.4, 1 bullet at 36.6, and 1 bullet at 36.8. Because that's the thing with Peterson, is their load data for this doesn't give you much room. So for the 80 grain bullet with H4350, their minimum is 36.3, which I went 3/10 below that, because actually they don't have any data for 80 grain. They do 80.5 grains, which is the burger bullet. So I went a little bit lower. I don't think it'll hurt anything. Plus I have a fast twist barrel, so it should kind of make up for a little bit. 36.3 grains is their minimum, and they only go to 36.9. So don't give you a big window with H4350. Now, Peterson came out with this data like when 22 Creedmoor first came out. I mean, not when it was like a Wildcat, but like, well, I guess it was still kind of a Wildcat because it just got SAMI approved not long ago, like probably 4, 5, 6 months ago, something like that. So it was, I think, still a Wildcat, but it was well adopted into the mainstream at that time. Well, it still isn't quite mainstream, I guess, but it was well adopted and well known. So Peterson came out with this data a long time, or quite a while ago. And I think at that time they didn't want to give you a huge charge range. Well, if you look at the data, at 36.9 with H4350, it's at 62,500 PSI. It does say estimate, and they have a velocity of 3,232 feet per second. Now, that is an 80.5 grain bullet, not an 80 grain, so half grain heavier, but so that's why I went a little bit lower than theirs. I think I'll be able to handle it no problem. And if 36 shoots really good and I still get good velocities out of that and no keyholing and no weirdness, then I may do a few more single shots, even a little bit lower, maybe down to like 35 or something. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. As long as these go good, then we're good to go. I'll change stuff up a little bit. So it's going to be 1 shot each, all shot at 1 dot, and that will be the first time out. Alright guys, let me get set up here and to get this show on the road. Alright guys, so it's going to be full reloading video for the 22 Creed, but kind of will apply to a little bit of everything, you know. So any new reloaders watching, this is for you guys, to help you guys out. So if it's new brass, you kind of got to treat it a little bit different, like I've told you before. The only thing I really do to new brass is, well, it depends. Obviously I take full specs, write it down in my book. You know, I get a new book for every new cartridge I take or am shooting. So in the book I take a neck, shoulder, web, overall length, and headspace dimension of new brass, once fired and twice fired. All across the board. I take those measurements. Now, if it's brand new brass and it's good brass, and by good I consider obviously Lapua, Alpha, Hornady, Sig was good for me. You know, little bit. Some would probably consider it cheaper brass, like Hornady and Sig, but to me, I can still consider that good brass. Obviously, I'm not saying it's still Lapua and Alpha tier, but it's still good brass. You don't have to worry about the measurements, you know, being way off. So that's what I mean by good brass. So as long as you got some decent brass, then all I do is take all the measurements, but as long as everything checks out, I literally put a primer in it, run a mandrel through it. That's it for brand new brass. So that's different. So obviously this video is thinking that you've already fired your brass. So this is once, twice, 3 times fired, process. Well, I guess even after once, you kinda only want to minimally bump your shoulder back, because you don't want to bump 4 thousandths right after one. After 1 times fired brass, I would still only bump your shoulders back maybe 1 thousandths, because you want to get to maximum fired headspace brass. And if you keep bumping it back, eventually it will probably get there. Or not probably, it eventually will get there, but if you keep bumping your headspace, way back, then it will just take you longer to get there. So that's why the first firing and even the second firing, usually I bump it minimally. Like, either don't bump it at all and just do the neck, or bump it a half to a thou. So after the second firing is where this is going to take place, I guess. A normal reloading. So I don't tumble, but your guys' first step would be tumbling your brass, if you want to tumble, or if you do tumble. Especially if you guys are doing an AR. You have to tumble. So clean your brass. That's the first step. Well, I guess first step, which I already did, would be take your primers out. Buy a universal decapping die. I recommend it. It's worth it. Deprime all your brass and start from there. Your next step would be tumbling. I'm not going to tumble, so I'm not going to show you that, but it's self-explanatory. You guys know that. Tumble your brass. Like for my AR, 30 minutes. 30, 40 minutes, that's all I do. If I'm got something to do, then I'll do it for like an hour or 2 hours if I have something to do. But if I'm waiting on the brass, then just 30, 40 minutes. But if I gotta go eat or like mow the lawn, then I'll throw it in and, run it for that time. But if I'm just running it and waiting for it, 30 minutes and it's good enough. So, first step, deprime. Second step, clean if you are going to clean. Third step, take your headspace. That is the first thing I do after, after the other 2 things you do first. No, after you're kind of got all your brass ready to go in your brass, or in your universal holder. So take your headspace. You gotta buy a headspace gauge. I mean, you really I can't say shouldn't be, but if you're reloading without these headspace gauges, you're just kind of reloading in the unknown. Just unknown dimensions, unknown everything, and you can get by that way, but your brass won't last as long. Like I said on the SIG, I'm like 12 times fired on that and still not a single thing going wrong with it. Primer pockets is still, brand new basically, and the brass looks great. I recommend getting your headspace gauge and a ogive gauge, bullet to ogive measurement, bullet comparator. Headspace comparator and bullet comparator. Buy them for every cartridge you use. So that's the first thing you do, is take your headspace. When you're ready to reload, that's your first step. So zero them out. Oh, can you guys see that? Yeah, I guess so. Now you don't have to do every single one. Well, I kind of do as I'm reloading, but the first thing I just check like 5 or 6 of them. 1.557. Check another one. I grab them like diagonally. Just go across diagonally across all your brass. 1.5565. So that's a 0.5 thousandth so far variation. 1.5565. .5565 in some spots. And 1.556. So about 1,000 variations so far across 6 of them. After you take your headspace and get a rough number, second thing you're going to want to do is take your overall length, because you need to know if you're going to trim. Because everything is dictated off that, really, after, if you're going to trim. Because you don't, you're going to want to size, because that will stretch it, but you still want to take a before measurement too, just to see. So 1.915. If you're already knowing you need to trim here, you should still size first and then trim, but at least you're knowing you have to trim. Now 22 Creedmoor is kind of a pain in the ass because it's still basically a Wildcat cartridge in a way, because I mean, yes, it's SAMI and all that, but you don't find a lot of stuff on it. Alright, let me go. The only data I know of right now is Hodgson manual. If you guys know of anything else, let me know in the comments, but I know Hornady don't have any, and it's technically their cartridge. Horizon may have some published in some forum, but I've kind of looked and haven't been able to find it. So let me see if Hodgson has a trim. Okay, so Hodgson does have a trim. Their trim length is 1.910. Now, let me see if Peterson has it too. Okay, Peterson has it as well. Case trim length 1.910. So that's what they don't have. Nobody has a max overall length, is what is not listed yet. Or I haven't been able to find it yet. Obviously different bullets are going to dictate a little bit different overall lengths, but usually cartridges have a max overall length altogether, max, not just this bullet is this bullet is that. Usually cartridges have a max OAL. Usually every cartridge has a trim length, a max OAL length. So, alright, so take your overall length, 1.914. So, that's what I was thinking of, is max cartridge length. Usually every cartridge has a trim length and a max cartridge length. And I can't find any max case length for 22 Creedmoor. I find trim length, what you're supposed to trim it to, but that's it. Alright, so I'm just above trim, and rule of thumb usually is about, I think, 5 thousandths is max case length. Let me check that real quick. Okay, so yeah. For 308 Winchester, case trim length is 2005. Max case length is 2015. So 10 thousandths is, some cartridges are going to be a little bit different than others, but that's usually the difference, a rule of thumb, is the difference between max case length and trim length is 10 thousandths. So either way, so 10 thousandths is a good rule of thumb. So it's 910 for 22 Creedmoor. Yep, 1.910. So 22 Creedmoor, you don't really want it to grow anything past 920. That would be 10 thousandths more, because trim is 910, 1.910, and add 10 more for max case length, and it'd be 920. So yeah, you don't want your brass to grow more than 10 thousandths trim length. So check your pieces before you size it, just to see if you're already there, because you're going to grow a little more when you size. And I'm 914. So I'm in between, a little over trim length. Measure another one. Make sure you're zeroed every time. 915, 914, 916, and 917. Alright, so now let's get sizing this, and then we'll have to take the trim length again, or not trim length, but take the overall length of your brass again to see if some of them did go over max length. I don't think I will be. I don't think it will be, because it usually only grows maybe 1/1000th or 2 max, but we'll see. Okay, so like I said, I'm not cleaning, so my next step after checking your headspace, checking your trim, or checking your overall case length is sizing. I don't bother with the primer pockets till after. Once I'm dealing with trim and chamfer and deburring, you know, I'll mess with that then. Let's get out the dies and get sizing. Alright, so yeah, another thing you want to do quickly as well is check what you did right for headspace on your new brass, once fired and 2 times fired. So this brass headspace on the brand new brass was 1.551. 1 times fired was 1.557. 2 times fired was 1.5575. So I am at 4 times fired right now. So let's see where we're at. 1.557. Well, you guys just saw this anyways. We're good there. So case lube, you guys know I use Imperial sizing die wax. It is best stuff I've used so far. Never stuck a case yet using that stuff, so that's why I use it. I just lube up the body a little bit, lube up the neck a little bit, and just wipe my finger across the top so a little bit goes into the, into the neck. Don't gotta worry about like throwing a bunch of lube on the inside of the neck. I just literally get a little bit on my finger, go around the body a little bit, around the neck, and just scrape my finger across the top of the mouth. And you'll see some build up on the edge there, which will eventually go. So now I'm 4 times fired, so I can fully bump whatever I've been bumping my normal amount. So what you need to do once you're past your 2nd times firing, from there on you need to just basically fit your brass to your gun. What I mean by that is you need to size your brass enough so your bolt handle falls. Now to do that, you have to take out your firing pin, and so there's no pressure on the back of the case. You don't have to take out the extractor. Ideally you should probably take out your ejector, but mine works good, without the ejector. My Remington, at least. Savage action kind of sucks for that, but Remington actions, yeah, you just take out the firing pin assembly and it should fall no problem. So that's what I do. So on this 22 Creedmoor Remington action, normally I do 2/1000ths on all my other guns, 2 to 3/1000ths. Well, the 22 Creedmoor likes to be about 4/1000ths, 4,000 bumps. So let your rifle dictate how much you bump, because if you search across the internet, they'll say 2/1000. Don't go more than 2/1000. Well, that don't matter. It's whatever your action wants. As long as you headspaced your barrel correctly, it's whatever your action wants. So like this action, like I said, falls nice and flat on 4/1000ths bump. The 3/1000ths, it's okay. It will still fall, but not completely freely. Just a little bit of friction or whatever on 3/1000. So if I'm between 3 and 4,000 bump on my 22 Creedmoor, I'm happy. Now my 6.5 Creedmoor, I can bump that thing 1,000 and the bolt will fall clean. So it's just all, you know, a little bit of difference between every gun and every action. Alright, not sure where I left off on this die. So this is what I mean by I take the headspace again anyways on every single cartridge, because I do it right right when I size anyways. But I just like to take a full measurement of brass before I start anything. Alright, 1.557. It's all lubed up. Let's run it up through the die. Ooh, that seemed like a heavy bump. We'll see. Alright, 1.555. Spin that die just a little bit more. Normally I don't do a case back to back, but it's pretty much set where I want it, so. There we go. 1.554. So, that's good. About 3,000ths. I'm happy. I'll go check it in my chamber, and I'll be right back. Alright, all set, closed good. Go to the next piece. Take your headspace, 1.5565. Let's lube it up. Lube the neck, and just rub a little bit across the top of the mouth. That way the mandrel will, when it goes down through the neck, will take some of that lube on the inside with it. Alright. 1.5545. So, that's good. I want them all to end up the same. Even if some are just a little bit underbumped, not quite a full 3,000ths, I'm fine with that. Because the chamber still closes. It might be a little bit tight, but I'm fine with it. Next. Like I said, anywhere between 3 to 4,000 bump on my 22 Creedmoor is good. 1.5565 again. Lube the neck a little bit, lube the body a little bit, and wipe some across the top of the mouth of the case. .5545. Looks good. A little bit on the body, a little bit on the neck. Now this is the same time I wipe off my necks because the lube, that's why my fingers are all black. Because the little bit of charring I do have on the necks, I just wipe off with the lube that I put on it. It's good to go. I usually will alcohol wipe it a little bit, but I have to alcohol these after anyways, so sometimes I don't feel like it. A little lazy, so this will work just fine. It's just as long as you don't mind getting your fingers a little dirty, which I don't give two shits. .555. Alright, that one didn't quite get enough. Let me run it through one more time. There we go, 1.554. Perfect. All looking good. I like keeping it all steady within like thousandths tops on the headspace, because that way it fireforms all back to the same, same dimension. It's nice. Because if you have varying headspace all the way across the board, then you have to constantly raise the die and lower the die, and it's just a pain in the ass. And it's something I do not want to do. Alright, last case. Like I said, we're only doing 5 because we're just doing a pressure test. See where that got us. 1.555. We run it through again. Now 1.554. Perfect. One of these I didn't hit twice. Yeah, 4 or 5. That's fine. It's only half time. So, alright, so I got 5 cases done. Let me separate this other brass. That way I know I have my row perfectly. Alright, so then what I do is I take a little bit of isopropyl alcohol, just get a little bit on the rag, and wipe your case off. That way all that lube is gone. So the reason why you really want to get the lube off is because if you leave any lube, like Hornady and a few other people have done tests on this, if you leave lube on your case and you chamber it in your round, it's not getting the correct friction in the chamber when you fire it. So it leads to more bolt pressure when you do fire a cartridge. Now, it ain't gonna just blow up your gun, but you're just introducing more wear that's not necessary. But after so many rounds, you will find more wear on your action than if you were to wipe all the lube off. Because a case is supposed to stick to the sidewalls of your chamber and then release. It's supposed to have friction there. So if you keep lube on the piece of brass, it's not getting the correct friction when it's fired, sticking to the side of the chamber wall. Alright, all those are alcoholed off. Now I take a little Q-tip, go in the inside, wipe whatever lube is there. Squeaky. Squeaky clean. So now your next step is obviously take your overall length again to make sure the sizing didn't put you over your max length. If it did, then trim. If it didn't, if you don't have to trim here, then your next step or your next decision is anneal or not. No, sorry. You would want to anneal before sizing. Forgot about that. I'm not going to anneal, that's why I didn't really say anything. I forgot anyways, but I wasn't going to do it anyways. I do it every other firing anyways. And I just annealed last time. So, right before we just ran this through the sizer, we took headspace, overall length, and all that. After you did that, you'd want to anneal first. Then come lube and size your brass. Then take another measurement to see if you need to trim. 915, 1.915, 1.9155, 1.9175, 1.9165. Alright, so I don't need to trim. Under 920, 1.920, so I'm good. A little bit above trim, a little bit below max. So, good to go. Eventually I'll take a true chamber measurement, but right now I'm good. I like to take a true trim chamber measurement so that way I know where the neck of the case actually hits and where I should be trimming to, you know, Because just because they put a trim length doesn't mean that's what your chamber is. I don't know if you guys have ever seen these before, but they're from Sinclair, and I got one for my 6.5, my 22 Creedmoor, and my 308. It's a chamber length gauge, and what you do is you sacrifice a piece of brass, but you take a measurement of your true trimming measurement. So, alright. So, you guys would have annealed, you're all sized, and you're all trimmed if you have to. After you trim, or even if you don't have to trim, you still need to chamfer and deburr and clean your primer pockets. Now, if you need to trim, then you trim, then chamfer, deburr, and primer pocket. If you don't, then just do your chamfer, deburr, and your primer pocket. Chamfer, deburr, and clean your primer pocket. Looks good. Get a nice chamfer on the end of the case mouth. Awesome. I'll hit it with a little hand tool primer scraper as well. Alright, now one more step that I do. I set my neck tension with a mandrel. This is a little Imperial dry neck lube. Get my Wilson die out. My 22 caliber is in there, I think. Yep. This Wilson die is really good. I love it. Alright, so the only thing you do here, make sure you guys can see. Alright, only thing you do here is dip the neck of your piece of brass in the dry neck lube. Make sure it's in there a ways so the inside of the neck and the outside get in. I go all the way a little bit past the shoulder, neck shoulder junction, and then run it over your mandrel. I spin it 45, run it up again. I run all my pieces twice. Looks good. And that's it. Easy as that. If nothing's getting on your brass, take your cap, put it back on, give this a shake, and you should be good. I bought the kit where you can recharge the media with, I don't know if it's graphite or what it is, but and you are good. Now, this doesn't mess up your chamfer, deburr, or anything. That's why I do it after. I save it for last. There we go. Alright. Give it a little wipe. I don't bother clean the inside off because there's still one more thing you gotta do. Or I do. Put your cap back on before you spill it. And I brush my necks. Do it 3 times. And if a little bit of that graphite is still on the inside of the neck, that's fine. As long as you stay consistent, do the same thing to your brass every time, then you should get repeat results. Honestly, I was thinking about trying Molly neck lube. I've seen a lot of people test it and say it don't work or don't do anything, but there's stuff on Amazon like melanite or something coating. I can't remember what it is, but I'd like to try it. I'd like to test it for myself. Alright, so we are sized, shoulders are bumped, necks are set to the size we want. Got my necks brushed, ran the mandrel through, chamfered, deburred, cleaned the primer pockets. We are good to go. Now we are ready for primer, powder, and bullet. And that's next. Alright guys, we're going to prime these. I got CCI 250s in there right now, which are Magnum primers, which I've done tons of testing on that, and I've noticed all the Creedmoor cartridges, well, the two I've used, I still got to try 25 Creedmoor and 6 Creedmoor. I will be buying those. I'm really interested in 25 Creedmoor. I've been doing some research on that. It looks really cool. Looks like a really good cartridge. But later on down the road, but I've noticed all the Creedmoor cartridges so far, 6.5 works incredibly well with Magnum primers, and so far the 22 Creedmoor has as well. So we're going to be priming these up with CCI 250 Magnums. I'm going to be using my RCBS Universal Primer. It does not use shell holders, it's all universal. So you just snap the case in the jaws and you're ready to prime. I think it's really nice that you don't have to buy a bunch of freaking shell holders and do it that way. It will hold anything from a .17 caliber all the way up to like 458 or something like that. I can't remember, but nice tight primer pocket still. A little bit below flush. All that matters. Keep it away from your face. Run your finger across, make sure it's below flush. You're good to go. Press it in. Make sure there's a primer in the bottom of the cup right there. Put it between the jaws. Give it a little spin. Just make sure it's aligned. And give it a little press. Make sure it's below flush. Move to your next one. Do the same thing. Good to go. Now I have a bunch of bench rest primers which I'll probably use after this pressure test, but I figured I'd use these Magnums and you know, whatever we reach for pressure on these Magnums, the bench rest regular primers are gonna be safe to use as well. So, but I got a bunch of matte primers and bench rest primers. I was actually thinking about doing a giveaway. I know a lot of people do giveaways. I wasn't sure about it, to be honest, or how I'd even do it. But I have a lot of primers, and I know it's something that people need right now, and I'm fortunate enough to have a bunch. I got a lot passed down to me, and I've just bought a bunch even before pandemic. I've just bought in. Every time I go to the store to get like 9mm ammo, I buy one pack of primers, or two, or three. I usually don't buy more than three, but I've been doing that for the last like 10 or 15 years. So I've been built up on primers for quite a while now, and I know it's I know people are in need, so I was thinking about doing a giveaway. I'll figure it out. Let me know if you guys are interested in something like that. I'll try and figure out how to do it, or what would be fair and all that. Alright, next step is some powder and then bullets. Alright, so I got CFP 223 in my dispenser, and I'm lazy and I don't want to empty it, so we're just going to hand trickle these 5. I'm only doing 5. That's the other reason why I'm not going to empty it. We're using H4350. Got a little bowl. Pour your powder in. Get your scale. Now I'm going to do my balance beams as well, just to double check. Make sure my digital scales are right on. Let me calibrate everything out. Oh, I can't use this pan. I gotta use the other pan. Get a little scoop. Make sure everything is calibrated. Looks calibrated to me. Take your powder pan over to your digital. Tear it out. Make sure your digitals are on grain. And start pouring. Get your funnel ready. Alright, first charge is 36 grains is our first pressure test load. Remember, we're just doing 1 round each. 36 grains. Alright. My digital scale say 36. Let's see what these say. You guys aren't going to really be able to see the... you guys can see it okay. You know what I should do? Is I should actually trickle. I should weigh a little light and trickle in this. That is what I'm going to do. Yeah. Alright, so looks like the Frankfurt Arsenal is weighing about a couple kernels over what it's supposed to be. Took 3 kernels out. Let me take another 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 out. That's 7 total. Alright, now let me trickle up here. Beautiful. Alright, there's 36. Alright, next load is 36.2. So 36.12. Holy shit. I went way over. Now that weighs 33.3. Oh, that's why that ball was hitting it. Let me redo that, make sure these are zeroed. Because I don't know if it was zeroed right from the get-go. Oh, you guys can't see. What the hell? Been doing this whole time and you guys aren't even looking at it. Unbelievable. Alright, so zeroed out. Gonna weigh to like 35 and then trickle up. Alright, 34 is good enough. Perfect. Double check that, see what the actual scales weigh. I'm looking for 36.2. And these are 1/10 under, so that ain't bad. Let me double check this one because the bowl might have been messing with it on this charge too. Just making sure I'm looking for 36 even on this one. Yep. So I'm glad I double checked that. So I want 35.9 because these are 1/10 off true reading on the beam scales. .9 because I'm looking for 36 even. Alright. Alright, I'll bring you back for bullet seating. We'll get the last couple done and we'll move on. Alright guys, got those last couple charged. Your last step, put your seating die in. Take off your headspace comparator. Put your bullet comparator on. Zero it out. Get that ready. Make sure you get all your powder cleaned up first before you do anything else. Go hover over the top of all your bullets or your cases. Make sure they got powder in them. Going from least to most, left to right. 36, 36.2, 36.4, 36.6, 36.8. Then I will cap them off with a bullet. Alright, so now let me go back to my book. Like I said, you gotta write everything down because you will forget. So when I first chambered this rifle and got it all done, I took OAL and CBTO measurements of all the bullets I own in .22 caliber. So the 80 grain ELDM touches the lands on my rifle at CBTO of 2.124. So I'm going to do 20 thousandths off from that. So okay, so that would be 1.204. Yeah, 2.104. 104 CBTO. Alright, so I'm going to back this off. So now, the way Hornady seating dies go is put your shell holder in, run your M all the way up to the top. Screw your die until it hits the shell, until it hits your shell holder, and back it off one full turn. And that makes it so you're not crimping and seating in one. I recommend never to crimp and seat. If you want to learn how to do that, go ahead, read the directions, but I just wouldn't recommend it. If you want to crimp after the seating. Get a Lee crimp die, and those work better than all the dies out there anyways for crimping. After you get this run down to the shell holder in one full revolution back out the seating stem as far as you can, and then start seating some bullets. I'm not going to go all the way, I just want to see what that is as of right now. Make sure you're all zeroed out. Looking for 2104, 2196. what that brought us. 2.123. Alright, so let's go in. So 22, 21, 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Let's go with 6. $107. 7, 6, 5, 4. And that should be 20 thousandths off the lands. 2.104. Now, the first thing you want to do before you reload any more is go try it in your rifle. Make sure safety's on, and if you got to do it in the garage like I am, the barrel's still pointed down in a safe area. It might go through my wall, but either way, it ain't gonna hit. It ain't gonna go through the neighbor's wall. It's gonna hit down back towards my range. Alright, so I just took the headspace measurement again because I went and put this in my rifle, and I can see where it's hitting the lands with the bearing of the bullet barely still in my rifle. So I went and took the headspace measurement with this bullet again, touching the lands measurement, and I got the same number. So what that is just the variation between the once fired piece of brass that I have, that I made a modified case from, and the 4 times brass that I have here. So when I take 20 thousandths off at 2.104, you can see it's hitting the rifling just a teeny bit. So I'm going to go down to 2.100 and try it again. Honestly, I could have ran that. The bolt closed just fine, but when I pulled it out, I could tell. I could see it on the bullet a little bit. So I'm at 2.100, and I'm going to go try that, and it should be good. Alright, that worked good. So that's what I'm going to go with. .100. I'm going to mark it in the book. Alright, CBTO 2.100. .0995, close enough. Make sure you remember what direction you're doing it, left from right or top to bottom, bottom to top. If you're doing up and down here, you don't want to be shooting a charge that you think you're shooting and you're actually not. So make sure you put them how you're going to remember them. Alright guys, so I have taken you through pretty much every step of reloading. 2.100. Shake for powder. Gives you like a 4th check. Redundancy. .101. Good enough. Alright. Next thing you guys will see is me out on the range shooting these 5 shots. But won't be until probably tomorrow, unless tomorrow's rainy. But either way, guys, I just showed you every step of reloading. For some of you, it might be boring because you know all about reloading and don't need this info. But to any new reloader, I hope it helps. But that's basically it. You need to figure out a few things, whether it's new brass or not. And if you need to create a system for already fireform to your chamber brass and brass that is brand new. I recommend doing two steps. You can do just one reloading for all your brass, don't matter. But I would recommend to do a couple different steps, just because after the first firing it is not, and I have proven that, brass after the first firing is not fully fit to your chamber yet. So that's basically it. You need to figure out what steps you actually need to do. If you need to trim, if you need to anneal, make sure you add that into your process. Me, I usually anneal every other firing. With my alpha brass, I'm going to do it every firing just to keep that brass as good as possible. Not that I don't want to keep, Hornady good as possible in my SIG, but it's a little bit cheaper brass, so every other firing isn't a big deal. You could actually go every three, I wouldn't do more than 3, but every 3 firings you can wait to anneal. But the most I go is every other firing, and then I'll anneal. So the next time I will anneal all this brass. So that's about it. That's my process. That's pretty much my process for any rifle I do. The only difference I do with any other gun would be an AR. And AR, I do tumble my brass. And the other difference I do with AR ammo is I tumble the brass and I bump like 5 to 8 thousandths on that, because I want to make sure it runs through that flawlessly. And other than that, AR is about the same too. Those are the only 2 extra steps I do. And I'll clean bolt rifle brass too if it gets the brass really dirty, but most of my bolt rifles have, minimum spec chambers or match grade chambers, so they seal tight. And so it don't really get the brass dirty. So I don't clean brass. I never do unless it absolutely needs it. So that's about it, guys. Make sure you're working up from bottom to top. You guys see me do it, even though I've been reloading for 10 or more than 10 years now. But yeah, you guys see me do it. I'll never be afraid to work up from minimum charge to above. I'll go above published max. I'm not scared to, but I like going from start to finish. I don't like starting right below max, and so that's about it, guys. Make sure you create a routine. Consistency is the key, and do that same thing over and over. And you should, like with me, with seating the bullets was nice, firm, press stroke. Barely any pressure it took to, and I could feel on every bullet I seat on my 22 Creedmoor brass that, it's the same neck tension the whole time. Same amount of pressure, same amount of force being applied on the handle. So that's when you know you got good consistent brass. And when you have SDs and ESs really low, that's when you know you're doing good reloading. But either way, guys, hopefully this helped. If you guys like it, if you could, please hit the like button. If you like this kind of content, hit the subscribe. I like putting it out. It's a hobby for me. It's fun. And even if nobody was watching, I'd still be putting it out. I love doing this. So, alright guys, I appreciate you guys watching. And I'll see you guys in the next one.